Hey, Hawks fans, this whole situation is starting to feel real now. For a while, it felt like everything was just rumors flying around, but now it seriously looks like things are heating up behind the scenes. And honestly, the idea that we could actually know who's taking over the franchise sooner than expected is kinda wild. There's a lot to unpack here, because some of these latest updates completely changed the vibe around this entire process. If you're hyped for more Seahawks news like this, smash that like button and drop a "Go Hawks" down in the comments so I know the real fans are here. The Seattle Seahawks ownership situation just took a major turn, and after Rapoport's latest comments, it finally feels like this entire process is starting to accelerate in a serious way. What stood out the most was not just the possibility of a sale happening soon, but the growing belief around the league that the market for the Seahawks has become extremely competitive. According to Rapoport, during his appearance on the Pat McAfee show, there is now real momentum building behind the scenes, to the point where an NFL owners' meeting could potentially happen this August to discuss the next phase of the franchise sale. That changes the entire tone of this conversation. For months, there was uncertainty surrounding how quickly this process would move and whether ownership groups would aggressively pursue the franchise. Earlier reports had suggested the market may not have been as strong as expected, but now the narrative appears completely different. Rapoport specifically pointed out that since those earlier reports surfaced, interest has picked up significantly, and multiple groups are now pushing hard to position themselves for a potential purchase of the Seahawks. And honestly, when you think about it, it makes perfect sense why this franchise is attracting this level of attention. NFL teams rarely become available for full sale opportunities. That alone already makes the Seahawks one of the most valuable sports assets imaginable. But beyond that, this is a franchise that continues to carry enormous appeal. The organization has stability, strong leadership in place, an established fan base, and a reputation that ownership groups clearly see as extremely attractive. Rapoport's comments painted the picture of a franchise that powerful investors simply do not want to miss out on. One of the biggest takeaways from the discussion was the expectation that the Seahawks are not just going to sell for a massive number, but potentially for a historic number. There was direct mention of the possibility that the final sale price could climb north of $10 billion. Earlier speculation had suggested the number might come in lower, but the renewed bidding activity appears to have completely shifted expectations. If the market truly is as robust as Rapoport described, then a figure around that range suddenly becomes much more believable. And that's where things become really fascinating for Seahawks fans, because now the conversation shifts away from whether the team will sell and toward who exactly is going to end up controlling the future of the franchise. There are already known groups connected to the process, and some names have started generating stronger reactions than others. One of the groups discussed heavily involves Weitz Grossbeck, alongside partner Aditya Mittal. Their connection immediately stands out because of their history with the Boston Celtics. The discussion around them focused heavily on competitiveness and organizational standards. During their time with the Celtics, the franchise remained aggressive, consistently competitive, and willing to spend in order to compete at a high level. That reputation matters because Seahawks fans are naturally going to evaluate any incoming ownership group based on one question: are they going to prioritize winning? That's the real fear in any ownership transition. Fans do not just care about wealth. They care about commitment. They care about whether the people buying the franchise are actually invested in maintaining high standards, or whether they simply view the team as another business asset. The conversation around Grousbeck's group centered heavily on the idea that there is at least a known track record there. There is evidence of competitiveness, evidence of investment, evidence that they were willing to support a winning culture rather than operate cautiously. Another name brought up was Vinod Khosla. The interesting part there is that while there is familiarity with him through his minority ownership involvement in San Francisco, there are still unanswered questions regarding how he would operate as a primary controlling owner. That uncertainty creates hesitation because owning a small percentage of a franchise and leading an entire organization are two completely different responsibilities. The discussion made it clear that fans are naturally going to lean toward the option that feels more proven. At the same time, there continues to be speculation around other wealthy figures potentially entering the picture. Mark Zuckerberg's name resurfaced again because of rumors tied to Seattle area activity, though there was also acknowledgement that there is currently no concrete proof connecting him directly to a serious pursuit of the franchise. The same applies to Steve Ballmer, whose name continues to generate interest because of his Seattle connections, even though there has not been confirmed evidence showing active involvement in the bidding process. What's important here is separating speculation from reality. Right now, the only thing that seems truly clear is that the Seahawks are drawing serious attention from powerful ownership groups, and the belief around the league is that this process is speeding up faster than many originally expected. Another major point emphasized during the discussion was the belief that the Seahawks are not leaving Seattle under any circumstances. That's obviously something fans immediately worry about whenever ownership transitions happen in professional sports. But the feeling here was very direct. Whoever buys this franchise understands the value of keeping the team exactly where it is. The Seahawks are deeply established, and the expectation is that any ownership group entering this process recognizes the importance of maintaining that stability. Still, even with optimism building around the sale, there's clearly tension surrounding how long this entire situation could drag out. The possibility of an August owners' meeting suddenly creates hope that the process may move much faster than originally anticipated. Earlier expectations suggested the sale might not fully materialize until much later in the year, potentially even toward the end of the season. But now there's growing belief that the league may want clarity sooner rather than later. And honestly, from a fan perspective, that urgency makes complete sense. Ownership transitions create uncertainty everywhere inside an organization. Fans naturally want answers quickly. They want to know who is taking over. They want to know what kind of philosophy the new leadership will have. They want to know whether the future of the franchise is in good hands. The longer uncertainty stretches, the more uncomfortable the situation becomes. Right now, though, the overall tone surrounding the Seahawks feels very different compared to where things stood just weeks ago. Instead of questions about weak interest or hesitation from buyers, there's now growing momentum, rising valuation expectations, and the possibility that one of the most significant ownership sales in NFL history could happen much sooner than anticipated. And if that August meeting actually happens, the entire future direction of the Seahawks franchise could suddenly become much clearer very fast. The next few months may end up being some of the most important months this organization has faced in years. What do you think about the possibility of a new Seahawks ownership group being finalized sooner than expected? And which potential buyer would make you feel most confident about the future of the franchise? The possibility of this sale reaching a number above $10 billion also says something massive about how the league views the Seahawks organization right now. This is not being treated like a risky investment or a franchise people are hesitant about. Quite the opposite. The discussion around the team makes it sound like ownership groups see Seattle as one of the premier opportunities in all of sports. And when you start hearing phrases like robust market connected to the bidding process, it becomes obvious that multiple powerful investors believe this franchise is positioned for long-term success. What makes this even more interesting is how quickly the perception changed. Earlier reports had painted a very different picture, suggesting there may not have been overwhelming urgency from buyers. But according to Rapoport's latest comments, things accelerated fast after that. That could mean several things behind the scenes. It could mean groups needed more time to organize financing. It could mean investors were waiting to see how aggressive the market would become before making their move. Or it could simply mean that once serious discussions started happening, interest exploded naturally because of how rare this opportunity really is. And that's the key point here. Opportunities like this almost never happen in the NFL. A full franchise sale involving a team with this level of profile automatically becomes one of the biggest stories in sports business. That's why every new update suddenly carries enormous weight. Fans are not just following rumors anymore. They are trying to figure out who could shape the future of the Seahawks for decades. One thing that continued to stand out during the discussion was the importance of stability. There was a strong feeling that whoever eventually wins this process needs to understand exactly what they are taking over. This is not a rebuilding expansion team or a struggling organization trying to rediscover relevance. The Seahawks are already established. That means fans are going to expect ownership that can maintain standards rather than reset them. That's why so much attention keeps going back to the groups with proven experience operating major sports franchises. The conversation around Grousbeck's group especially focused on consistency and competitiveness. Fans naturally look at previous ownership histories as a preview of what the future could look like in Seattle. If an ownership group has already shown willingness to support winning organizations, that creates confidence immediately. At the same time, there's also caution surrounding unknowns, because while wealth is obviously necessary to purchase an NFL franchise, fans care much more about philosophy than bank accounts. Nobody wants an ownership situation where financial caution limits the franchise's willingness to compete aggressively. Nobody wants uncertainty about priorities, and that's why the identity of the next owner matters just as much as the final sale price itself. The mention of Steve Ballmer remains especially intriguing because of the Seattle connection. Even though there has not been confirmed evidence connecting him directly to a bid, the idea alone continues generating excitement, because fans naturally gravitate toward owners who have ties to the city or understand the market deeply. Local connections always matter in situations like this because they create trust immediately. But at this point, there's still a lot we simply do not know. Rapoport did not reveal who the strongest bidder currently is, and that mystery only adds more intrigue to the situation. If the process truly is heating up behind the scenes, there may be ownership groups involved that have not even surfaced publicly yet. And, considering the numbers being discussed, it would not be surprising if some of the wealthiest investors in the world are quietly evaluating their chances right now. Another important part of this entire conversation is timing. The idea of having clarity before the NFL season begins changes everything. Instead of this story hanging over the organization throughout the year, there's now a real possibility the Seahawks could enter the season already knowing who their future ownership group will be. That would remove a huge amount of uncertainty from the franchise. Because the longer situations like this drag out, the more speculation grows. Every rumor becomes amplified. Every report creates panic or excitement. Fans start overanalyzing every detail. So if this really does move toward an August resolution, that could end up being the best possible outcome for everyone involved. And honestly, there's something else that became very clear throughout this discussion. People genuinely care who ends up with this franchise. This is not being treated casually. Fans are emotionally invested in the future direction of the Seahawks, and they want ownership that matches the seriousness of the organization itself. That's why every potential bidder immediately gets scrutinized. Their history matters, their priorities matter, their reputation matters. The other thing worth paying attention to is how confidently the discussion dismissed relocation fears. That's a massive relief for fans because ownership transitions always create anxiety about long-term intentions. But the belief here was firm. The Seahawks are staying in Seattle. Whoever purchases this franchise understands the value already built there. So now the focus becomes simple. Who steps forward? Who ultimately wins the bidding war? And what kind of future will they envision for the Seahawks organization moving forward? Because if the reports are accurate, and this market truly has become extremely competitive, then the NFL may be approaching one of the most significant franchise sales the league has ever seen. And if that happens before the season even starts, this entire situation could evolve incredibly fast over the next few months. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video, and turn on notifications so you never miss any Seahawks updates. And when you're done here, click the video that's on your screen right now because the biggest Seahawks news always hits here first.